The Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge is now on sale. I've spent the last week with the handset to find out if the Edge is useful or useless. It's tending towards the latter, but it's worth pointing out that under the screen is one of the best Android devices on today's market. Last week I noted down my first impressions from one of the latest smartphones from Samsung. The Galaxy S6 Edge is the more distinctive of the two handsets launched earlier this week. The other is the Galaxy S6 Edge, and I'll get to that handset in time. I suspect Samsung has been pushing this handset to be reviewed first because it is arguably the more immediately exciting of the two handsets. The curved screen shows off Samsung's technical skills. The software that runs on the Edge is a new way of using a handset, and it generally looks new and refreshing. At least that's what Samsung will hope you take away from it. In practice, the S6 Edge's curved screen is the weakest part of the equation. It introduces ergonomic problems. It's a bit annoying in strong sunlight. The TouchWiz UI does not take it into consideration when laying out information, and the much vaunted Edge software is a bit of a letdown. But those issues need to be balanced out with the underlying hardware that powers the smartphone. The S6 Edge is packed with potential, from the latest version of Android to an impressive chipset that should keep it relevant and practical to use for a number of years. And it's nice to see Samsung push the envelope a little bit in terms of design, even if I think it could have implemented the ideas a lot better. Let's see, how do we pick up this design? So as the S6 Edge has grown out of Samsung's Project Zero, which handed the South Korean company the opportunity to redesign the smartphone from a blank sheet of paper. That the design echoes much of the previous efforts from Samsung and other manufacturers speaks more towards the normalization of smartphone design. There was always going to be a large touch screen, there would be a home button and the two action buttons required for Android at the base, some speakers and a touch of branding along the top, and a camera on the rear. Even with a redesign, you can't stray too far from the ideal of a smartphone, and neither can you stray too far from what your company's smartphone looks like. Branding and being able to recognize a Galaxy in a short glance is still vital. What you can change is the materials used, the shapes, and the construction. Samsung has addressed all three of these with the Galaxy S6 Edge. First up, the S6 Edge is a glass affair, with the front and back of the handset fashioned from glass, and sandwiched between them is a metal frame to give it the strength and durability of other similar-sized smartphones. This gives the S6 Edge a feeling of being cool, of being expensive, and it's great to say goodbye to the plastic and faux leather backs that dominated previous Galaxy iterations. Putting aside the edge of the S6 Edge for a moment, the curved styling of the rest of the handset is as expected, with very little different or awkward compared to the norm. This is smart thinking. If you change one part of the design so radically, everything else should really stay the same to limit user confusion. Power buttons are on the side, volume buttons on the other side, and you have your micro USB socket, headphone jack, and speaker mounted along the bottom edge, with an ejectable nano SIM card tray on the top edge. There is one awkward part of the design, and this speaks to practical side of the S6 Edge concept as a whole. With one perfectly flat side, and one curved side, I want to hold the smartphone back to front. The curved edges of the S6 Edge's screen fit wonderfully in my hand, and years of muscle memory scream at me to hold the smartphone with the screen facing inwards, and the expansive glass back and camera bulge looking out towards me. Also, speaking to years of smartphone handling, I want to put this phone face up on the table, which makes it a bit more awkward to pick up. To be fair, I'm using a small wireless charging puck, which makes it easy to wrap my fingers under the S6 Edge most of the time, and the protruding camera housing lifts up the top of the handset just enough to get a good grip, but this is still an awkward phone to pick up. Samsung would prefer you to place the handset face down during the day, letting the Edge software cast a glow under the handset as a notification alert, but really I'm not comfortable doing that for any smartphone. Let's be honest for a moment here, anyone buying the S6 Edge will be buying it in part because they want a futuristic phone and a design that is a little bit more out there, so these issues are all part of the deal of getting a smartphone with the equivalent of a streetcar spoiler-laden body shell. If you really must have something a bit more predictable and ergonomic, then the vanilla Galaxy S6 will be the handset for you.